What's good, internet? I'm JB, and today I have yet another return to Pokemon Draft League content here on the channel, this time with Season 3 of the Paldea Battle Academy, or the PBA for short. If you're wondering what Draft League is, don't worry, I'll explain that in just 1 second. But first, if you could drop a like on this video, it'd really go a long way to letting me know that you guys are open to seeing more than just Unite content on this channel. The Unite content isn't going anywhere, but I'd like to branch back out into Scarlet via Wi-Fi battles occasionally, and Draft League just helps with that. These videos will go up every Monday for at least the next 9 weeks, more if I end up making playoffs in the league, so if you enjoy competitive Wi-Fi battling, be sure to tune in every Monday to catch the battles. With that out of the way, some of you may be wondering, what even is a Draft League? Well, Draft League is a style of competitive singles battling on Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, where coaches are gathered together and one by one pick Pokemon for the roster. It's similar to fantasy football or other fantasy sports if you're familiar with that. The Pokemon are placed into tiers based on their stats, typing, and overall strength in the metagame. In this league, each coach is given a budget of 120 points to draft between 10 to 12 Pokemon. And what's special about the PBA is that some Pokemon that are normally banned in the draft format, or Ubers and Smogon tiers, are allowed to be drafted here. After the draft, we then get a schedule that is 9 weeks long, where we battle another coach each week. After 9 weeks, the top seeds in each division are seeded into a single elimination playoff bracket, where the winners of each division's bracket will ultimately play to decide the champion of the league. I know this is a big information dump all at once, so if you have any other questions about draft, let me know in the comments, and I'll be sure to answer them as best as I can. And one final thing before we get into the team I drafted, I gotta give a couple shoutouts. Firstly, to the head admin of the league and a good friend of mine, Jack, aka Gravy. He's been one of the staples of the Draft League Wi-Fi community for the last few years, and he makes some amazing draft content, so go check out his channel in the description down below. And another shout out to the boys, CB Marcus and Galadite, for helping me draft my team. CB is currently playing in the BBL Draft League with some creators like pokeaimmd and Seabad, so go check out his channel too. He's been putting out some awesome content lately. Now, enough yapping. I'm sure you all want to know what our team for this season of the PBA is, so let's get into it. I ended up having the number 3 pick in my division, which is awesome. It means I'd be able to secure one of the best Pokemon in the draft for my team, and that's exactly what we did with our first selection, Solgaleo. The mascot of Pokemon Sun boasts some unbelievable stats and a great ability in Full Metal Body, and an incredible typing of Steel and Psychic, giving it both a great defensive typing as well as a very hard-hitting dual stabs with moves like Sun, Steel Strike, and Psychic Fangs. And not to mention some great utility options like Knock Off and Teleport. Solgaleo gives me an awesome Pokemon that will be easy to fit onto my team every single week, with any role for pretty much any matchup. So Solgaleo is a great start to our team. Next up, I want to talk about the main battle gimmick of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and that is terastallizing. After the draft, each coach is given a 30-point budget, separate from our draft budget, to designate up to 2 to 3 Terra Captains, which are the only Pokemon on our teams that will be allowed to terastallize throughout the season. A Pokemon's Terra price is oftentimes a little bit more expensive than its draft price, and the more expensive, the less types you get to designate for your captains to Terra into. So more expensive Pokemon would maybe only get one type to Terra into, and some low tiers might even be allowed to Terra into any type if that's how a coach chooses to spend their budget. For our team, I ended up choosing the next 2 Pokemon to be our Terra captains, Volcanion and Serperior. Volcanion is the Pokemon I'm most excited to use on this entire team, as in my 7 years of playing draft on and off, I have never been able to try it, so I'm very excited to give Volcanion a try. Volcanion sports another incredible typing of Fire and Water, and one of the most spammable attacks in the entire game in Steam Eruption, which is a stronger version of Scald that sacrifices a little bit of accuracy for even more power. Speaking of power, Volt gets just about every fire move you could ask for, and some nice coverage in both Sludge Bomb and Sludge Wave, Scorching Sands, a ground type attack that also has a chance to burn, and even support options like Haze and Taunt that could be useful in some matchups. As far as Terra types, I went with Fairies, as it's simply just one of the best types in the game, and then Ground to neutralize electric types that might be wanting to, try to check Volcanion. Both types being neutral to ground attacks also makes me less weak to Earthquake spam overall. Our other Terra Captain, Serperior, is another mon I've rarely gotten to use in my Draft League career, and it has a ton of fun toys at its disposal, starting with its awesome hidden ability, Contrary, which turns stat drops into stat raises, and vice versa. The main beneficiary of this ability is the move Leaf Storm, which normally lowers the user's special attack stat by 2 stages. Serperior gets a +2 every time he uses Leaf Storm, which could always be a threat to clean up a game if I'm able to weaken my opponent's grass resist. On top of that, Serperior gets access to one of the most annoying moves in the game, Glare, which is a 100% accurate move that paralyzes the target, and with Serperior's great speed tier, it's often able to get this move off early and often to really slow down a lot of teams. Pair these 2 moves with a ton of great utility options like Leech Seed, Knock Off, Reflect, and Light Screen, Taunt, and even Coil for non-contrary sets, and Serperior will almost always be able to find a good role in most matchups. Serperior's Terra types are Ground, which helps with the Fire, Steel, and Poison types that resist Leaf Storm and might want to switch in on it. The follow-up +2 Ground Terra Blast won't feel so great in that instance, and Electric, which does basically the same thing for flying types. Next up, I wanted to focus on getting some hazard setters for the team, but with the amount of offensive firepower we have already, I wanted to make sure my hazard setters weren't too passive and would lose momentum in matches. So I needed to make sure they could also do their part in hitting hard as well. First up in this role, we have Greninja, which sets both toxic spikes and spikes, which are some of my favorite hazards in draft that are great for chipping down teams' HP. Grin is far from a passive hazard setter though, with a great speed tier, respectable offenses, and a ton of hard-hitting attacks, especially when its ability Protean is active. Grin definitely accomplishes our goal. Next up, continuing the Pokemon Unite theme, we have Garchomp, which has been one of the best stealth rock setters in the game for years, and now gets access to spikes in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. It also has an incredibly diverse move pool and one of the best abilities in the game, Rough Skin, which if we pair with a Rocky Helmet will do even more chip damage to our opponent's team along with our hazards. Lastly, we get another Sinnoh standout and one of my all-time favorites, Mesprit. Another solid stealth rocker with one of the deepest move pools in the game, solid stats all around, and the ability to levitate, which his team really appreciates. Mesprit is an ideal choice as a Gloomon that can fill almost any role I need it to in a given matchup. Next up, every good draft needs what I like to call a button clicker. That's a Pokemon that just gets to come in, click a button, and do a lot of damage. Our button clicker for this team is going to be Annihilate. Annihilate has a great offensive typing that not a lot can switch into safely in Ghost and Fighting. Not to mention the juiced Generation 1 move pool of Primeape to round out some really good coverage as well. Oh, and I can't move on without not mentioning Rage Fist, a seemingly below average 60 base damage ghost type attack that doesn't look too special at first glance, but what makes this move crazy good is that every time Annihilate takes a hit from an opponent, Rage Fist damage increases by 50, up to 6 times, which can very quickly get out of hand if our opponent doesn't have a good answer to Annihilate. And with moves like Bulk Up to increase its physical bulk and Drain Punch to keep it healthy, it can make that job much easier to just stick around the entire battle. We just have to be careful around special attackers like Psychic types. Which brings me to Grimmsnarl. If you know anything about my draft league history, you know one of my favorite ways to lose games is by letting Psychic types set up in front of me and one-shot my entire team because I don't draft a good Dark type. Well, that's what Grimmsnarl is here to help with. On top of being one of my all-time favorite Pokemon, has yet another amazing typing in Dark and Fairy, which is incredible defensively minus the weakness to Fairy itself, but we got a pretty good Fairy killer to help with that. But other than keeping Psychic types in check, Grimmsnarl has one of the most diverse move pools you'll find, with endless options that make it yet another great Google option to fit onto teams, whether it be a more support-focused set with dual screens, an annoying bulky pivot with Taunt and Parting Shot, or even a win con in the right matchup with bulk up and hard-hitting stab coverage options. Grimmsnarl will almost always be able to do something useful. All of that doesn't even mention the two best things about Grimmsnarl, which are its abilities. Frisk is simply broken in draft, where any information about your opponent's set is extremely valuable, but even better than that is Prankster, which gives all non-attacking moves +1 priority, which can be huge to get up a screen before a big hit, prevent a Vastermon from clicking a setup move with Taunt, or even to keep hazards off my side of the field too, all of which add to the near endless utility of a Pokemon like Grimmsnarl. And finally, our last two Pokemon are here to round out some types I was missing. We have Electivire, another personal all-time favorite, and Vileplume. Electivire is a solid physical attacking electric type with excellent coverage and an immunity to electric attacks, which is always nice to have on a team. And finally, Vileplume gives me a grounded poison type. Not a grounded poison type like Nidoking or Nidoqueen, a grounded poison type, which just means that it touches the ground, which is extremely valuable for absorbing opposing toxic spikes should my opponent choose to bring them. It also gets a top 3 most annoying move in the game in Strength Sap, which lowers the opponent's attack stat and heals the user. While not the most exciting Pokemon in the world, I'm sure both Electivire and Vileplume will have their moments to shine throughout the season. Well, there you have it. Here's my team for this season of the PBA. Let me know which Pokemon you think will lead our team in KOs in the comments, and also comment any nickname suggestions you have for our team. I might use yours in a video. Our week 1 game will go up 1 week from today at this same time, so make sure you come back to the channel to see how the team performs. That's about it for this one, guys. Again, if you have any questions about draft, let me know, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching. Take it easy.